Hello everyone, this is Sid and welcome back to Cine Culture. I know it's been a while since I put out a video or a review. I have been a little busy, but now that I have my time, I went and I watched Dune Part 2. Yes, this was one of my most anticipated films of the year, and I know I'm a little late, but I still managed to watch it. And this was a masterpiece. I loved the first Dune. That was one of my favorite films of 2021, and it had I had some issues with the way it was paced, with the storytelling, and how it dragged at parts. But I was really excited for part two, seeing as how the film left off, and I'm at a loss of words right now. It was phenomenal. The acting, the directing, the music, the sound design, the visuals. Oh, this was my favorite movie experience of all time. I would say Denis Villeneuve. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Um, he is one of my favorite directors working in Hollywood right now, and I like the way he tells his stories. There is this distinct style in which he portrays his characters, the layers in the story itself, and that was kind of missing for me in part one, but I found that in part two. I will delve into a couple of minor spoilers later on in the video, but if I have to give my spoiler free thoughts right now, the acting was great. Timothy Chalamet, I did not expect him to be this good in the film. Like he's a good actor. I haven't seen much of him. I have seen him in Wonka and I saw him in the first Duel, but I was really blown away by his performance here. It's very grounded. He is this reluctant hero that has to go on this hero's journey because according to this prophecy, and I really liked that. And I would say the film, as the film went on, his acting got better, and he was in full power in the climax, especially when he becomes the leader. That's when you see Chalamet's acting really shine through. Another great act performer here is Austin Butler. I saw him in Elvis, and I completely believed him in that role. His was probably my favorite acting performance that year, and he stole the show here. Fade Ratha Harkonnen, he portrayed the character so well. This psychotic, brutal killer, but you see how his place in the story plays a big role in the overarching narrative. And this is probably one of the best villains of recent times. I have seen the comparisons that people are doing to Heath Ledger's Joker, Nanton Chigger. I didn't like him as much because he didn't get as much screen time to flesh out his character more. But from what we got, he's definitely one of the best villains of recent times. I also really liked Zendaya's performance here. She has a very laid back role in the film, but for a character gets these moments of defiance, she really shined. And she might be one of my favorite characters from the film, which I did not expect coming out of the first film. Rebecca Ferguson also did a really good job. Hers was a very mysterious character. You don't know her allegiances until the very end. And even then, you're still confused whether she's actually on the good side or not. So I really liked that. There were a couple of characters that were not fleshed out, especially the character Emperor and his daughter, but they didn't get because they didn't get much screen time. But they still had a major impact in the overall story. Speaking of that, the world building was really well done. Each and every plot point, location, character, it feels fleshed out. The world feels lived in. And that is just a testament to the director's ability, his skill at building this world. The adaptation from the book, I've heard that a lot of things were changed from the novel. I have not read the book, so I have no idea what the changes are. But the film that I saw, part one, part two, they complement each other really well, and this is an epic. And now talking about the visuals and the cinematography, I saw this film in IMAX with surround sound, Dolby surround sound, and this was a great experience. This was, I think, my first IMAX film that I saw in the theaters, and I loved it. The visuals that were put on screen, each and every frame, none of it looked false. I got goosebumps around 5 to 6 times. I had literal chills. The sound design was also really well done, especially whenever their characters use those little hammering things that they use to attract the sandworms. The sound design, and there's this particular scene in the middle of the film where you are on this Harkonnen planet and you see Fade Ratha fight these people in this tournament. There's this black and white color saturation all over the screen. And from what I hear, they actually filmed it using infrared cameras. That just blows my mind how much detail went into the filming, the production of this film. And it just shows the dedication of the makers to put this project on screen, and I was really impressed by it. I do have a couple of small nitpicks here and there. Firstly, Fade Ratha, the character, I really loved him as a villain, but considering he's the main villain of the film per se, he got very less screen time. I feel like his scenes were very spaced out, so we didn't get to spend much time with him. And the same thing happened with other characters like the Emperor and his daughter and Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit had more of a presence in this film than in the first film, but I feel they got more scenes in the first film, which is kind of odd considering they didn't do much over there. Most of the focus of the film is focused on Paul, Shani, Stilgar, and Jessica, and even she disappears halfway through the film. She's in the first half, and then she disappears up until the third act. So, a couple of the characters were were a little less fleshed out than others, but that is a small nitpick because each character was well placed, and you understood their part in this narrative, this grand story that's being told. So, yeah, those were my spoiler-free thoughts. If you have watched the film, you can step into this next section with me because I'll be stepping into some spoilers. If you haven't watched the film yet, go watch it right now. I would highly recommend you watch it in the biggest screen you can, IMAX if possible, because this is something that you need to experience in the theaters. So, if you're here, you watch the film. Moving into spoilers, I really liked how they did the subversion of the chosen one trope. Before I had watched the film, I had seen a couple of comparisons to Paul and Anakin Skywalker all over the internet. So I was a little confused what happened there. I watched the film and I completely understood what happened, and I was really impressed. The switching of the character. You see Paul as this guy, this chosen one, this messiah. He's a reluctant hero and he goes on this journey, but all along you see that he's manipulated by the Bene Gesserit, the witches. His own mom is manipulating him for her own reasons, and he doesn't know he's getting manipulated, but he's manipulating others to fight for him for his own goals. And by the time you reach the climax, you realize that the steps he's taking are putting him on the path to become what he is fearing the most. At the point where the film ends, you see that the great war he had been fearing throughout the first film and the second film has now been set into motion. And what I really liked is the way that they did the throne room scene. After he kills Fade Ratha and the Emperor bends the knee to him, the entire room, everyone bends down except for Prince Irulan and Shani. I love the detail because Irulan is one of the Bene Gesserit. She is has been part of the manipulation that's been going on, so she knows what will happen, and she is still manipulating Paul into letting her father live. Shani, she had not been receptive to the prophecy since the beginning, and she still does not believe that this is the right way, so she does not bend the knee. I I don't know how to say this, but the way they did the storytelling here was great. My jaw was on the floor when the big reveal came about Jessica and who her father was. But then you realize that the Bene Gesserit have been manipulating everything from the shadows because they know what they follow their own agenda. They have their own favor in mind. They have their own plans, and what I loved is how they get their own severance towards the end of the film when Paul stands up to them. Now they realize what they have done, what they have created. The moving of Paul from this hero, the reluctant hero, savior, chosen one archetype, to this fallen hero, the Anakin Skywalker, was really well done. Better than Star Wars, I would say. Because in Star Wars, when Anakin goes from being a Jedi to Darth Vader, you can see that a lot of the choices, a lot of the decisions, a lot of the event that led to him becoming Darth Vader could have been avoided very easily. But over here, from what I understood at least, there was so much manipulation going on by the Bene Gesserit, by Jessica, that no way, no matter what Paul did, he would have to make the decisions, take the choices that he ended up taking. He always had to become this person because that was what was foretold. In Star Wars, there was the prophecy of the chosen one who would bridge the dark and the light sides. But over here, there is the prophecy of the one who will lead them into who will lead the Fremen into paradise. What that paradise means is not specified. They say it's a green land, but how do they get the green land? By waging a bloody war across centuries, which will result in the deaths of millions. And that is what Paul was trying to stop all along. But by the end, he goes on that path without even realizing what he has done. The way the story is told, I was impressed. Even characters like Gurney and Stilgar, they are not pushing for him to become the Messiah or anything. But the way they reacted, the way they talked to him, it all led up to him becoming who he has become. Stilgar always believed in him. Gurney, when he told him that he didn't want to become the chosen one, Gurney told him that becoming the chosen one will help him get revenge. Paul wanted to get revenge for his father's death, but what he didn't realize was that in that process, he became who he was trying to avoid. And I really liked that storytelling, the subversion of expectations. And as someone who has not read the books, this film made me curious about this world, and I am very much intrigued about what happens in the books, what happens in the next chapter in the story. That I have heard that the director would very much like to adapt the next novel. I think it's called Dune Messiah, and I would love to know more about this world because I was really impressed by what they managed to do here. This is definitely my favorite film of the year so far, and I would highly recommend everyone watch it. That too in the theaters because this is an experience that you need to watch on the biggest screen possible. So that was my review. Do tell me in the comments what you thought about the film, and if you have any thoughts that you might want to add to my review, my analysis of the film, do chime in. I would love to have a discussion because this is a film that I really enjoyed, and I would love to talk to you guys, understand what your feelings are. So, yeah, let's have a lively discussion in the comments. But if you liked the video, do like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos like this.